campaign promises yet. If he intends to add the cleanest, cleanest city in Africa, campaign, that one there, we all know Atosum long time ago. Yes, but
when I think about this country, sometimes
maybe
I get so
competition, competition would lead to. Maybe that's the thinking that mostly happens with some of these things. Competition. If he has the regions to compete, they will do things that will make them stand out, which will lead to cleanliness.
Yeah, but
as to whether that's sustainable,
exactly, because the competition.
As to whether that's,
I mean, is it a whole year's competition? Are you going to be rewarding weekly, daily,
because
monthly,
there's an assessment period.
There's an assessment period.
But Winston, as we all complain about all these things, Galamsey and the cleanest city and cleanest region, you asked the question: what has happened to our local governance structure? If it was working, I think we would have come very far in dealing with these challenges.
George,
the whole idea about local governance was to deal with these problems. What has happened to our...
There were 12 meetings of the Buckingham Council in opposition to the setting up of a new fast food joint. The argument led by Professor Smith was quite clear. He said it was going to lead to a lot of gluttony and that the future of the kids in that area were going to be compromised. This is a council. He wrote those petitions. He forced the council to not give government or land for the building of the new fast food joint. Local people believing in their activities can influence what happens in their area. And I was shocked because I'm following, and this is not like they were doing demonstrations or anything like that. He pushed for it. He sent petitions. He actually convinced people in the council to vote against giving out that space. I am thinking if he had similar-minded people who could equally use our assembly system to force people to leave these Galamsey pits, to stop the invasion of the areas by these people, because every district in the Republic of Ghana has an assembly that has people who have been elected from unit committees with an assembly member who represents directly the people. And this man was not even one of those assembly members.
No, you see,
he was just a university professor whose only interest is that I will not let the future of this section of the people, because of course I can't control other people, to be influenced by...
I went to do a course at the Institute of Local Government Studies.
Yes. And last week we discussed it.
while studying there, I asked a question, because we're going through all the policies and programs and how we should go about our decentralization process, and I asked, do our leaders know these things? Because on paper, I think what we have written as a people is one of the best in the world.
That's true.
On paper, what we plan to do. So on paper, for instance, 1D, 1F would have been fantastic. I mean, would have been implemented without any problem. Because all we could have done was to set up an economic committee which will go around and engage the people on where the people have a competitive advantage. And the assembly would actually say, because we have this competitive advantage, we're using this amount of money as equity funding, or we're actually, donating land and getting these people to come and getting people to come into the community. We are going to provide cheap labor for them.
Yeah.
So we would speak to the artisans within the community that if we do this and do it well, what is going to happen is that people are going to come into this community. And where there is a community exports jobs, there is a growth of the service sector.
Yeah.
So all of us will sit down and discuss these things. Unfortunately, we never discuss. I mean, look, even at the district assembly, it's like nothing happens. The assembly members, they go and sit there. And the people that you're supposed to engage, I was moderating the Mineral Districts Development Scorecard, and we realized that when you invite people to come for a meeting, they ask what is in it for them.
Yeah.
Come and sit down. Yes, some of them is surprised. Come and sit down. Let us plan our development. They say, what is in it for me?
It shouldn't be supplied.
The politicians do it.
And the next thing they ask is, am I going to be given transportation? Am I going to be given item 13? Oh.
So it's a local governance structure that is it's not working. If it was working, we would have dealt with this problem of Galamsey and all this cleaner city and all the rest. And and was it Kwame who has some interesting books on local governance in this country, and he's been on authority.
Who?
Is it Kwame Ahoy?
Kwame Nahoy,
Kwame
yes.
Nahoy said, sorry. It's done a lot of papers.
It's written a lot of
whole
papers.
thing about how we can
Professor
make
Achuaye and Co have also done
make
extensive
this
work.
local governance structure work for us to deal with some of these problems that we are complaining today.
But
Let's move on.
the last story I should bring your attention to, they are AC related. First one, NPP Walwali Parliamentary Primary rerun. The NPP has already issued their timetable, which ends on the 8th. So on the 8th, there should be an election to replace, to fill in the gap. And I heard Sam Selada who represented the...
Kabiru Muhammad.
Yes, the MP who was elected. And no, the candidate of the NPP who was elected. And his argument was that you cannot benefit from your own illegality. So you cannot put people on the electoral roll illegally when you know you are replacing them with people who are already no longer existing. Then come and say later on that there were illegal people on the roll, so we should go through. But the courts had a different view on the matter. The other story is about EC suspending officer over unsolicited voter transfers, and these are district officers in Sagnarigu and somewhere in Tamale. And the hope is that, in fact, they say they are investigating virtually all district officers. And you know what? This sounds very, very strange. That there were transfers done. Some happen to have been a cumulative form of transfer, like the Jubaku Enyan CM parts for over a period. So the people complain about 3,000. At first, it was ignored and wished off as you are just complaining. Then later also, no, it's an honest mistake. There was. Then the question will be, if there were no vigilant people watching the roll, would we have still been in the position to say that we have done or put the right people on? Because this electoral commission has been very stringent. The reason why they were insisting on a Ghana card was that they believe only the right people should get on the electoral roll. Yeah. For all of these things to be happening, not a couple of months, I mean we are in September. no, we have like 3 months. Oh no, 3 months, yeah. 3 months to election time. Hopefully, because we're having conversations about this, it engenders more transparency and accountability around it, so that we can all get to the point where we believe the electoral role we are taking into the election properly, and we make sure that we have credible elections. And I stopped saying free and fair elections when Afarajan said it's a dream somewhere back in 2008.
But Raymond, I think the quick one, and I'm not that old, still a small boy, but I still remember a time when you couldn't see what was in the content of the ballot boxes, to how far we've come as a country to ensure that even all the agents of the various political parties now would have the register, they have the serial numbers to double check, they have their seals on the box, and now institutions like IDEC and then CDD and all these civil society groups over the years have fought to ensure that we have a very clean registrar role and all the rest. I think we've come very far as a country.
Yeah, but
and I admit that yes, there are challenges, but sometimes you hear certain comments and it's like seriously.
No, but you see, elections in our part of the world is one that political parties would fight just to make sure they win, because of the winner takes it all that we practice in this country. And so it is only the politicians. They are the only ones who know why in government they support the EC and in opposition they fight the EC. And so the Electoral Commission, you see, they must not, the election management body, and here our Electoral Commission, should at all times make sure that there is no doubt, I beg your pardon, about the electoral process.
There's no room for doubt.
There's no room for doubt. Because
can we have that?
We can.
Sometimes you listen to some of the allegations.
But you see, that's why I say you must make sure there's no room for doubt. Because once you create a room for doubt, you are preparing the minds of people to reject results.
And again, don't be in a hurry to dismiss claims, right? What happened? Because you see,
not dismiss
you sit in Accra, right? I'm not saying you. I'm saying the Electoral Commission. You sit in Accra. You may not control what happens in all of the districts across the country. So it makes sense that when issues are raised, you investigate before you come out to say, oh, these are not credible, these are not claims that are right and all of that. For you to only come back and tell us, well, I mean, we are working on it.
Let's do the Economy Times lead story. Government moves to avert effects of imminent potential catastrophic drought. Take steps to confront the challenge ahead. Ghana records 10% fall in FDIs in 2023, lowest in the past decade, and 345 million saved from the payroll cleaning, according to the Labour Minister. These are the lead stories on the Economy Times newspaper.